The origin of all of this can be traced back to 1965. The man that you see on the picture, his name is Joseph Weizenbaum. He's a researcher at MIT. He built was what many consider as the world's first chatbot. This is not artificial intelligence by any stretch of imagination. There was no large language models back then, but it was able to mimic a conversation, human-like conversation, for the very first time, to the point his assistant got fooled that he was talking to a real human being. So Joseph Weizenbaum one day enters his office. An assistant was interacting with the software, and then she told him, "Can you wait outside? I'm having a private conversation." That's when Joseph Weizenbaum realized the danger is not that machines act like people. The danger is that people act as machines are people. Now, this is what a lot of chat systems are doing today. The ChatGPTs of the world or the chatbots of the world that you're interacting with are designed to be linguistically very fluent. They often mirror and speak like human beings. 1950s, we interacted with machines using punch cards. 1975, we decided, let's build command line interfaces. 2000s, we moved our interface to graphical user interface. And that has progressed into your mobile application. What has fundamentally happened now is our new user interface is conversations. This is the first time in the industry we don't need to understand the language of the machines. The machines can understand the human language, which is a fundamental paradigm shift. So you should see AI as a fundamentally an UX revolution more than anything else. Now we can have conversational interface to interact with data, conversational interface to get things done. Previously, you need to know programming languages. You have to learn Fortran, you have to learn Python, you have to learn all these complex languages. You have to adapt to the language of the machines. Now you can do vibe code. You can type it in plain natural English and you can build an application. Or you can get the data you need with plain natural English, which is fundamentally a paradigm shift. What this means is lots and lots of data are going to move towards conversational data points, which means monitoring conversational data is even more important now than ever, because all these interactions that we're going to have is going to be a conversation. Also want to talk to you about this particular device that came in the 1970s. HP launched this in Silicon Valley. And it's actually funny, this is the actual advertisement of this pocket calculator. HP advertised that this is your answering machine, your personal answering machine. Right? Sounds a little overstated, right? It's just a calculator. But they promoted it as a personal answering machine. Why? This was a breakthrough in the 1970s because prior to that, if you want to do a math problem, you need to have access to a mainframe system. You have to know Fortran. You have to write programs. Then you get your math answers, complex math. It's the very first time you had a pocket device, and you can do advanced scientific math on it, which is a breakthrough. It's a significant breakthrough. And it required very little power. Some of the devices can run for years, so you don't need to change batteries. You can use it for years. So this is a phenomenal achievement back then. It's in a lot of ways, this is what's happening with our ChatGPTs of the world today. We have a pocket answering machine that we can access. The only difference is it doesn't run on batteries for 2 years. It requires large number of power, humongous amount of power. But here's the interesting thing. This is the latest ChatGPT 5 version. You give it a math problem, a very simple math problem. Solve 5.90 equal to x.511. At the time I created this presentation, I actually ran this session on the latest ChatGPT 5. Here's the interesting thing. You get different answers every time you run if you make a slight changes to the text. So with all these years of innovation, We've innovated a lot from 1970s to 2025. We have this massive large language models. Billions of dollars have been spent on it. It can't do a basic math. It fails gloriously in a basic math. There's a difference between 1970 and 25. So is it progress or is it regression? So this is the fundamental thought that we need to think through. On the right-hand side, we are spending enormous amount of energy, and it can produce incorrect math results. In 1970, we had a device which can do advanced scientific math and provide accurate results. So there's a place for both. The reason why this is happening is the computing model is fundamentally changed. We used to do deterministic computing in the 1972. What is deterministic computing? For a given set of inputs, you will get the same output. It's very deterministic. This is what we have all known in our life. Computing always has been highly deterministic. Same inputs, same outputs. But now, what we have is probabilistic computing. What that means is same input, you're not guaranteed to get the same output twice. Now, this is a flaw, and it's also the feature of this computing paradigm. Why it's called generative AI is because it generates stuff. It's pattern matching. It is not calculating, not necessarily number crunching the way we used to. This enables us to form new use cases, but also comes with its own set of flaws. So this is very important for us to understand as an industry. And the reason I'm talking about this is it's very important for us to understand how technology works to truly harness its power. So I want to show you something else here. Fire, arguably the first invention of human being, tools in human being. Nuclear power, phenomenal invention of human beings. Now it's AI. You know why I'm optimistic about AI? Is because in the history of humanity, we always created power which is far greater than what we can do, and we always found a way to tame it. But we cannot harness the power of AI without oversight. If you think of fire, think about how many technologies we have built around to prevent fire, to contain fire, fire retardants, fire safety. That's why we tame the power of fire. Same with nuclear. You cannot run a nuclear site without monitoring in place, without safety controls in place, without process in place. This is what we're doing. We need for AI, and this is what we are figuring out for AI. We are very early in the AI journey in this space. Oversight is foundational. It's going to be the next big keyword in AI in the coming years. Without oversight, you cannot tame the power of AI. This is why I personally like this poem. This is Casey's, used to be the chief decision scientist for Google. She was one of our keynote speakers at our conference 2 years back. She recently wrote a poem about AI, and I took some liberty and I modified it a little bit, and I want to show my version infused with what our version is. AI can see your prompts, not your thoughts. AI can see your words, not your intent. It can see your patterns, not your purpose. It can see your data, not your story. It can see your decision, not what inspired you to go down the decision. It can see your compliance, but not necessarily how committed or not committed you are to that compliance. It can see your past, not necessarily the future. Even though predictive AI is big, we assume predictive AI predicts the future, but it predicts the future based on the past. It cannot truly predict what will happen next. And it can predict, it's a digital shadow, but it's not the real you. It's very important for us in the industry, adopting AI technology, to be very realistic about what its AI capabilities are, so that we don't over-project ourselves. We don't have goals for AI which are unrealistic. When you have unrealistic goals and you go after unrealistic projects, that's when failures happens. And this is what enterprises are seeing today. This is why this study that came from MIT, as sobering as it is not surprising for me. Staggering number of generative AI projects are failures in the industry right now, despite the billions of dollars being invested from the venture capitalists, from marketing and all major vendors, that are failures. Why? Because the expectations of AI is unrealistic, and the projects you're going after is unrealistic. So MIT's report, which is worth a read for everyone in this room, if I distill it down, it comes down to these 4 key findings. Ignore the hype. And this is what we've been saying at SupportLogic for over 5-6 years now. We are a true AI company, but we don't believe in AI hype. Let's talk about real stuff, real world impact, real world results. Focus on realistic use case. And often these realistic use cases are back office tasks that can be automated. Not aspirational stuff that you want to do. Really mundane back office tasks that can be automated is where productivity gains are to be had today. Models are not enough. Every few months, you're getting this flashy new models, outperforming the previous models. They're not enough. You need to have thoughtful integrations, thoughtful workflows. You need to have the scaffolding around it. Last year's keynote, I was talking about how AI models are like your engine in your car. A car doesn't run just with an engine. It needs the entire infrastructure, the brakes, the wheels, the headlights, the air conditioning system, the batteries. You need to build a lot more around that engine. You have to enable feedback loop. Often this is a problem in internal AI pilots. People build this tool, great prototype, works great, fails 3 months later because you're not adapting to feedback loop. There has to be a continuous feedback loop. And context retention is very important. I'll talk about that soon. Last but not least, and this is not something I am saying it because we are an AI vendor. This is a ground reality today. Bring a specialized vendor where it makes sense. Internal build is a time sink, it's a money sink, it's a maintenance nightmare for many. It's not worth doing it all the time. Don't need to reinvent the wheel. I'll give you a very classic example. In the 1990s, when SQL databases were getting very popular, a lot of companies said, you know what, why do I need a CRM system? It's just a web form behind a database. I will build it internally. Even today, what's the big deal about CRM systems? But nobody builds CRM systems. They all buy CRM systems. It's not worth the effort and maintenance. And this is true for a lot of AI projects. Success rates goes up when the vendor's business solely relies on the success of these projects. They are going to be hyper-focused and make it successful. And that's what we're seeing with our customer base. There are many of our customers are doing internal builds. They're using us. They're strategically deciding which one goes into internal builds, which one goes to the vendors. So I advocate, as an industry, don't necessarily look AI as an artificial intelligence. I think that's not the right way to look at it. The way I would like you to look at it is it's intelligent automation. Everything that we do in computing is automation. Now there's a new way to automate stuff which doesn't require hard-coded rules. You can use machine interpreting and pattern matching data and creating automation by themselves. This is what we're doing fundamentally. Everything that we're doing is intelligent automation. It's not this magical artificial intelligence, even though the illusion of intelligence makes you think like you're working with a magical thing. It's intelligent automation. But the real challenge in any automation, anybody who has done automation ever would tell you, the challenge is the last mile problem. So what is the last mile problem? A lot of hype about 5G in the industry. Great technology, amazing speeds, but you still have a last mile problem. You are still going to see dead spots somewhere where you have no internet connection. So what's the point in having a 5G capability if you have a dead spot? That's a last mile problem. We have this in Silicon Valley. There's so many dead spots in Silicon Valley, you won't get any signal. Wi-Fi, we know Wi-Fi in conferences are still a challenge. That is a last mile problem, classic last mile problem. Autonomous cars, they've been going on in the industry for 15 years now. we still don't have fully autonomous cars. 100% automation is a challenge. The reason it's a challenge is getting something to 99% is easy. Getting something from 99 to 99.9%, it's not 0.9% effort. It's 100 times more effort to get there. This is the exponential law that often we overlook. Every decimal point after 99 is more work to get there. So when you can't fully rely on automation, 100% automation is always a challenge. You still need monitoring, you still need oversight. That's why we still don't have 100% autonomous cars. Some point in the future will come close to it, but fully autonomous system is always a challenge. So it's all about the last mile problem. And enterprises are filled with a lot of last mile problems. And that's what we need to focus. This is a conference about enterprise AI for CX, and that's what we need to focus on. So what are the fundamental challenges for enterprises? When I think about enterprises, the first thing that comes to my mind is silos. That's why you have the silo pictures here. And fundamentally, there are 4 different silos today. There are data silos, there are context silos, there are signal silos, and now we also have AI silos. What is an AI silo? Every vendor that you're integrating with has their own AI solution. So now we have AI silos. You have your own internal AI projects, which is another AI silo. How do you get a unification across all these different AI silos? How do you get unification across data? We have not even solved the data silo problem yet. And we've added one more silo now, which is the AI silo. So the way we are looking at this is, let's talk about data silos first. The fundamental challenge of data in enterprise is still a big challenge. When we're talking about AI in consumer, it's a very different beast because you don't have that many silos. In enterprises, you look at it, you may have multiple ticketing systems. You may use Salesforce and Zendesk and Freshworks or ServiceNow or a plethora of ticketing systems. You may have multiple acquisitions. Every acquisition might be using their own favorite ticketing system, so you have an enterprise filled with multiple siloed ticketing systems. You may have multiple data lakes. You may have telemetry data coming in and going into one data lake, or your development team may use a different data lake, and then you have a data in data lake. You may use different telephony systems. You may use Zoom for your conferencing solution. You may use Slack or MS Teams for your collaboration, and you may use a CCaaS or a UCaaS player for your telephony provider. And then your knowledge is spread across everywhere in the company, from Slack to knowledge base articles to Jira bugs. So all of this data is where AI needs to harness its potential. So the first number one challenge is how do you address the complexity of the enterprise data? You need to think about pulling this data from all of the data sources in real time without overwhelming the source system. What do you mean by overwhelming the source system? You can't make 1,000 API calls every second and bring down all the systems. You have to do differential sync. You have to leverage zero copy where zero copy makes sense. Then you need to think about data protection guidelines. There's a plethora of them. GDPR, CCPA, European Union AI Act, IPA compliance, PCI compliance, the list goes on. Those are real challenges for enterprises that are dealing with highly sensitive data, especially in the context of support. Then you have multiple different SaaS vendors in your ecosystem, so you have to do cross-cloud data stitching. You bring all the data and you have to normalize the data into a centralized system, then allow it to be a real-time data mirroring so that it can replicate it, so that you can work on the mirrored copy as opposed to the source copy. These are fundamental challenges for any AI project. If you're building an AI project internally, your team is working on these problems. Challenge number 2, signals, which is what we do at SupportLogic, bread and butter. The previous one as well as this one. What do we mean by signals? Signals in business communications are noisy. There is a lot of noise. Signals are hidden among the noise, right? The language patterns people use when they are interacting in a business communications are very subtle. Sentiments are not the same when you communicate sentiments in a social media versus you're having a conversations in a telephone versus face-to-face conversation email conversations, sentiments are very different. Human beings don't yell at people necessarily in front of someone. In email, you may be different. In social media, you may be very different. The signals there are a lot of nuances there. They need to be extracted. And this extraction is not a one-time thing. It has to be done on a continuous basis, on an ongoing basis. Build context around the signals that you're extracting. And the signals can be signals about your customer, signals about your internal employees, signals about your product, and the commercial aspects of your product. All these are true signals buried in every conversation. They need to be extracted. Next one is my favorite. It's context. Context is king. We all have heard this phrase before, right? In support, we always say this, context is king. So what do you mean by context here? Your customer interaction may initially start with a chat conversation. Customer may say, come into your chat widget and say, I have an inquiry, I have some problem. Great, now you have one data in your chat system. Customer may do an email follow-up. Okay, now you introduce another system of record. Customer may call you after that, again in the context of the same ticket you're working with. The support rep may say, you know what, hey, let me open a ticket because we're having all this informal conversations. Let me open a ticket on your behalf. And now you opened a ticket in your support ticketing system. Then you go and do an internal research. Maybe you document the internal research or you don't. Some of them can happen in Slack. Some of them are happening in your Confluence pages. Then you do a troubleshooting session saying, I need to get in front of the customer. Let me do a Zoom call or a Microsoft Teams call. Let me do live troubleshooting. Then engineer says, it's a bug. Let's open an engineering bug. Guess what? That's a new ticketing system. Then the customer escalates. Now you have to follow an escalation process. Escalation process for most companies, still an Excel sheet. I'm introducing another escalation process system. Escalation follow-up. Suddenly the account team gets alerted. This customer is hot, unhappy. Account team needs to jump in. Guess what they're using? They're using Salesforce. That's another system of record. They're living in another silo. And then you realize to solve this issue, I have to open an ITSM ticket because there's something wrong with the servers that we deployed. So you open an ITSM ticket. Now you're in service now. This is the ground reality of many enterprises, which means in the context of one ticket, you've touched multiple systems of record, multiple systems of engagement. For you to understand what's happening with this particular account, I need to summarize across all of these silos. This is a challenge. And then there are multiple tickets open. These are the third dimension you're seeing on the screen. And you have to stitch the context across this third dimension as well to understand what's happening at the account level. This is a complex problem. Contextual memory, when you're talking about in the OpenAI world and in the AI world, people are talking about context in the sense of a session context. You're having a chat session, my token size needs to go up because I'm eating out of context. In the enterprise setting, context has a completely different meaning altogether. You cannot do the context on a chat session because chat session is one small sliver of your context. So that's a context problem. Third thing, the dominant conversation in AI is all about generative AI. Oh, AI is, the only definition right now is generative AI. Reality is, you need to use a plethora of different AI technologies for enterprises. Going back to the HP calculator example, today nobody would do a serious math problem on ChatGPT. First of all, it's going to be inaccurate, it's going to be inefficient. You're probably better off doing it in a calculator if you want to do a serious math problem. But if you want to process text, ChatGPT is the right place to do it. Any LLM is the right place to do it. So there are tools specialized for different functions. So you have to have all this technology, annotation models, precision RAG, gradient boosted trees, domain-specific NLP, reinforcement learning, entity extraction, multi-channel scoring models, a plethora of technology. So your stack is way more complex than what you think. You cannot necessarily do everything in one place. Even if you attempt to do it in one place, it's not going to be cost efficient. So when you're thinking about build, you need to have an architect layer across all of this. So the dominant conversation in the industry right now is AI agents. You've probably heard this term everywhere. AI agents, this, AI agents, this, agentic enterprise, lots of buzzwords and keywords, right? Most of them, when they're talking about AI agents, they're talking about some sort of a session-based AI agents. What is session-based AI agents? Session-based AI agents are, you are in a chat session having a chatbot conversation, or you are in a session for analyzing your data. You can do business intelligence and interactive dashboard, or you're doing vibe coding, which is also, you are in a session, which means it's an input-output workflow back and forth. That's what people think of when they think about AI agents. We are looking at it slightly different, and that's what I want to talk about. What we are looking at is what we call as ambient AI agents, which is highly composable. So what is ambient AI agents? Ambient AI agents run in the background. You're not interacting with it. It does its job, it does its automation continuously, 24/7, runs in the background, takes care of it. Let me give you a small example. Many of you may have using this product at home. If you have a lawn, you may use a sprinkler system, and now you can get intelligent sprinkler systems that can pull the weather data and say, today's going to be hot, let me get extra water. Tomorrow's going to rain, I'm going to stop using the sprinklers. It's a very basic, simple automation, taking weather data to do some automation. That's a class of an ambient AI agent running in the background. You don't need to interact with it. It does its job completely. Majority of enterprise AI productivity comes from ambient AI agents running the job in the background, so you don't need to do less grunt work. You're focused on high-value work, not the grunt work. The second part is it has to be highly composable. Composability is important so that you can construct new use cases. Here's an example of how in SupportLogic we have composed ambient AI agents. We have a dozen ambient agents. We have a knowledge agent. We have a routing agent. We have a summarization agent. We have a language agent. We have a voice agent, prioritization agent, so on and so forth. You can take a combination of these agents, put some workflows around it, and solve a problem of a specific persona. For an end customer, we can create a customer portal that can serve knowledge. For a support engineer, you can assist them with language translation or tonality assist, or you can serve the right knowledge for them. For support leader, you can do prioritization, escalation management, so on and so forth. The composability nature is super important. Individually, these agentic systems are 100% autonomous automation running in the background. But that alone is not sufficient. You have to combine them with right integrations and right workflows to get the right ROI, which is the model we've been using for years. So this leads me to this architecture, which I'm very thrilled to announce today. We are calling this the Customer Experience Platform as a Service. So what is this? You have all this disparate ticketing data sources, chat systems, voice systems, data lake, knowledge sources, CRM systems, so on and so forth. We have built a data extraction engine. We have a data production engine. We host everything in a secure virtual private cloud dedicated per customer. We do continuous signal extraction, running 24/7 ambiently in the background. We do continuous AI lifecycle management. Machine learning models, it's not you do it once and you forget it. They have to be continuously maintained. Models will regress. Models need to be tuned. It's a full lifecycle management, running in the background continuously. You take all of this data and put it back into a data cloud so that the data is instantly available anytime you want to use it, because the automation here extracts the signals, calculates everything, puts it back to the data cloud. You can access it anytime. This is what we call as the Cognitive AI Cloud, SupportLogic Cognitive AI Cloud. It is truly a PaaS solution. This platform as a service solution is what powers the SaaS solution that our customers are familiar with. So if you're using the SupportLogic UI, the power of the SupportLogic UI and the workflows and everything is powered by the PaaS behind it, which is where all the complexity lies. Every enterprise has to go through the stack below, the PaaS stack below, to get value from your customer interaction data. Today, we have 3 delivery mechanisms. We can give you a SaaS. We have a CRM widget, which is embeddable across any kind of CRM, whether it's Salesforce, ServiceNow, Zendesk, Freshdesk, you can embed them. We also have a portal widget, and we'll talk about that shortly, which also means you can also embed this in your customer-facing portal. Those are 3 different ways the insights, the intelligence, the signals gathered by SupportLogic can be embedded in 3 different places. So it's not just a SaaS solution, it's a PaaS solution that can be embeddable in different places. But we're also added a few more places to interact. One is now we have a data cloud, which means you can bring in your own business intelligence dashboards, or you can build your own custom application using data cloud. You can also access the data with Model Context Protocol, which is the latest buzzword in the industry. We'll talk about that shortly as well, or through Events API. So there are a plethora of ways to consume the intelligence that SupportLogic brings you to the table. SaaS is one consumption mechanism, but you can do amazing stuff if you consume it in other ways. So what can you consume in across all these places? We're doing billions of predictions. We're extracting millions of signals about sentiment, escalation probability, soft skill gaps, commercial signals, escalation factors, so on and so forth. These signals, you can harness them for a plethora of use cases beyond what is possible today. We have customers leveraging this for marketing automation. How could you do marketing automation? You take a customer who is consistently happy, that signal is there. You take a customer where you found commercial signals, that data is there. Those are the right customers for you to do marketing automation. That data is now available in Snowflake. You take the data and you kick off a marketing campaign, hyper-personalized for that customer. The future of our industry is going to be hyper-personalization. AI is going to deliver a lot of hyper-personalization. This is one example of that. So before we go into this PaaS platform, I would like to invite Paul Kozlov, Global Head of Support Operations at CyberArk. Paul, great to have you.
Hi, Krishna.
Paul, for folks who are not familiar with CyberArk, could you tell us what CyberArk does?
So CyberArk is an identity security company. We started as a privilege identity security, and we expanded beyond the privilege management into identity management, into machine identity. So we basically cover all the spectrum of identity security for our customers.
I know you were in the news very recently. Networks is your new owner, one of the biggest acquisitions they've made. So there's a lot of buzz around the company. You've been using SupportLogic for quite some time. Could you tell us your journey with SupportLogic and what brought you to SupportLogic and how you're leveraging it?
Yeah. We've been a customer of SupportLogic for about 3 years, a little bit over 3 years. And the initial driver was your classic use case, predicting and preventing escalations, monitoring the customer sentiment. We've been doing a lot of work in our escalation handling workflow, so that seemed to be a very natural system and tool to bring to our support engineers and managers. We've had very good results in ensuring visibility of customer sentiments. Right, we have great results in making sure that support managers control and acknowledge all of the sentiments. And from that, as we're starting to look at additional areas such as quality assurance, automatic case assignment, and the newest ResolveSX feature that helps the engineers get the right data and get the right knowledge faster and solve their cases more efficiently.
So Paul, you mentioned 3 things in it. One is sentiment analysis.
Yep.
The other one you said quality assurance, real-time quality assurance. Third one is knowledge assist.
Yep.
Can you tell us the importance of these for your organization? Why do you care about these 3 things?
The sentiment analysis is basically, at some point we want to replace our customer satisfaction survey, the transactional customer satisfaction survey, with just monitoring all of the sentiments. I think everybody knows that when you send the surveys, even if you send it to 100% of your customers, only a fraction of those customers really return those surveys. When I am a customer and people send me surveys, I rarely bother. It has to be either superbly great or outstandingly terrible for me to go and fill out a survey. Most of the customers are the same way. So relying on the transactional surveys to review your customer satisfaction it's like looking at 2 data points out of 100 and making your decisions there. The sentiments themselves provide a much more accurate view of what's going on within the system and where you need to concentrate your efforts in order to drive the customer satisfaction in the right direction.
So I'll ask you this question. Most of the times when people are thinking about support, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I want to reduce my ticket volume, I want to deflect my cases. People hardly think about, I care about my customer sentiment, because you assume that most customers are unhappy, that's why they're calling you. Why did sentiment become an important aspect for you?
So, they're right. Nobody contacts support because they're happy. People contact support because something isn't going right. However, as we help customers to write the experience, correct their problems, we need to make sure that we are actually doing that and we are not making things worse for them. And because if you look at the support in a high-tech environment, half of the issues that we solve are people issues, and the other half are really technical issues.
Right.
The customers talk to us about the technical issues, but as those technical issues get wrapped around the people issues, they make those people issues, they amplify those people issues,
Right.
and make the impact so much more pronounced, right? So ensuring that the technical issues are taken care of in the right way makes the people part of the conversation much easier.
That's a great point, right? What we have generally seen in the industry is if you're a highly technical product, you hire people who are technically sound, and then you teach them the soft skills to be a great support engineer. And that's where the Elevate product that we have makes a ton of sense for our customers. So could you tell us about the soft skill issues or the coaching aspect of the product?
Yeah. So one of the great things about the Elevate product, the QA piece, is it identifies different soft skills that the engineers are using, right, and provides a visibility overall for leadership team, for example. These are the things that your team is doing great, okay? Keep them going. These are the things that we are lacking in. So it feeds into our enablement program and into our trainings. And then if you go one level down into the line managers, right, it gives them a really good opportunity to review what the engineers are doing and work it into their one-on-one conversations.
Right.
So they can tweak those and set the goals and set the path for the individual engineers to improve in those areas.
Yeah, we were talking about this yesterday in an informal setting, that in an industrial sector, nobody questions about quality control. If you want to have a great product, every product needs to be inspected. If it doesn't meet the quality control, it's thrown off. It never goes to the customer. We could do quality control. And we rarely think about this when it comes to our customer interaction. Every customer interaction needs to be inspected. And if it's a poor interaction, it needs to be quality control. And you ideally don't want those poor interactions to be going out to customers.
That is correct. And I think one of the things that is great about the about the ElevateSX product is that it's able to review 100% of your cases, right? Your traditional quality assurance program would sample the tickets, right? Depending on how big your QA team is, it's going to be from 2 to 10% of cases that is going to get picked. And again, this is not an accurate picture. And then another thing, I have yet to talk to a support leader whose team is 100% resourced, right? And when we get our resources, when we get our headcount allocations and the budgets, right, the first place they go is the case closers. Whatever is left goes to the supporting function, of which QA is one. And having a system and a product that is able to do those things helps the team tremendously, because now we can concentrate on getting the people assisting them in helping the customers and making sure that they're doing a great job while at it.
Yeah. Thank you, Paul. That's a great story. So Paul is available here. Anybody wants to talk about how Paul is using SupportLogic? We're having a great partnership with Paul for over the years. Feel free to reach out to him. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you, Krishna.
So I want to talk a little bit more about the CXPaaS platform I just talked about. Paul is using some of the SaaS components of our product for quality monitoring, for escalation prediction, for sentiment analysis, and also for serving knowledge to the support engineers. But the platform can enable a plethora of new use cases, which are very exciting. And I want to showcase some of the stuff our customers are doing, some exciting stuff our customers are doing, and some of the stuff that you can potentially do as well. First thing is, I want to talk about what you can do with chat, what you can do with your customer portal, what you can do with your CRM, what you can do with your collaboration tools like Slack and MS Teams, and if you have a mobile application, what you can do with your mobile application. So for chat, we're super happy to announce that we're launching SupportLogic Chatbot SX for Agentforce. Now, Agentforce is a relatively new product in the industry. Lots of buzz around the product, and lots of customers are using the product today. So we have native integration with Agentforce. And what this does for you are few things, and we'll go into the demo in the product keynote very soon. Agentforce integration allows you to monitor your Agentforce interactions, measure the customer sentiment for those interactions, making sure your customers are not overly frustrated when they're talking to a chatbot, or compare how their frustration levels works with a chatbot versus a human agent. Second thing it does is also it increases the resolution rate. Agentforce plugs into the Resolve SX product of SupportLogic to give high accuracy answers for Agentforce. So if Agentforce is not able to answer a certain question, you can plug the Agentforce to ask the question to Resolve SX product of SupportLogic, and it will provide the answers. So we'll do the demo for that. Lately, we're super excited about it. It really will improve your resolution rates in Agentforce deployments. It also will give you the much needed oversight for Agentforce deployment. Second thing I want to talk about is portals. When we think about customer portal, we are mostly thinking about, hey, a portal is a place where customers will search for some KB articles, go to a community discussion forums, and open a ticket. That's how we think about portals. Customers are reinventing portals. So entity data is one of our customers are completely reinventing how they're thinking about portal. They want to be very transparent with the customers and share insights back to customers about all the support incidents they opened. So they want to show the sentiment of their interactions. They want to show what topics are trending in their support conversations. So they're delivering value back to the customer, not just by saying, here's a place we can open tickets, but you know what? In the tickets, we found all those patterns, and you can surface those patterns. They're also added summarization feature in it. So what it means is if a customer's open hundreds of tickets with you over a period of year, nobody's going to read those 100 tickets and understand what happened in those tickets. So now we can provide summary of those tickets, what happened across all these 100 tickets. So somebody comes in, they logs in the portal, they can get an account summary. It's extremely valuable. They're rolling out to thousands of their customers today. We're super excited, and we're just scratching the surface of what is possible with a CXPaaS platform of SupportLogic and how we can deliver highly hyper-personalized customer portal. Speaking of portal, knowledge is such a big piece of the portal, and I would like to invite Chris Romrell from NICE to talk about the knowledge portal that he's been working with us for the past few months. Chris? Let's start with Chris. So Chris, you've been using SupportLogic for some time. I'm pretty sure everyone in the audience knows what NICE does, but do a quick overview of what NICE does and what's your role at NICE.
So NICE is a very interesting company. It's grown significantly over several acquisitions. I joined NICE as part of the InContact acquisition, bringing the CCaaS market to the workforce engagement products. We've since then expanded into omnichannel and digital and now AI products. And so we've grown significantly, and expect to grow much larger over the coming years.
And what is your role, NICE?
I'm the global head of support for the CXone suite of products.
Okay. Could you tell us the journey with SupportLogic? Prior to the knowledge portal project, what were you using SupportLogic for, and what is the value you were deriving from SupportLogic?
Much like Paul, we started with the Chorus X product. We needed to see visibility of our cases and the orchestration and sentiments. And so we started there, and when the Xfind product was announced, we saw an opportunity to enhance our customers' search. And we expanded, and we've been working very diligently with the Xfind crew. And we launched our customer portal in May of this year. And then we've taken that same portal and extended it to our internal users. That happened earlier this month. And now we are bringing a integration into our customer case path later this month. Very exciting progress.
So could you tell us a little bit about how the portal works for folks?
Yeah, it's one other piece of background. When we were analyzing our opportunities, we realized that 85% of our customers didn't search. They went to the portal to open a case. And we realized that meant they weren't happy with the search. They didn't feel like they would get good answers. And with that knowledge, we have integrated all of our customer-facing materials to the customer portal. And then we've integrated additional internal sources and our historical cases into our internal employee portal. And when a customer comes to NICE to open a case, we hope they search. Today, they can type anything into the search box. And again, it's different from a keyword search to a AI search. We want them to type a sentence. Tell us what's happening. Tell us your symptom. And the more they search, the better the answer comes back. And then ideally, we'll see some implicit case deflection. We've seen about a 4 or 5% reduction in monthly cases since deploying the new search in the portal. And then by integrating the case deflection, we're actually going to take the case details and use that as a payload and push that into the AI search for SupportLogic and return a very similar search experience back. Again, instead of giving a list of articles, it's going to be a generative AI response, which is very easily understood. And then we're going to ask them, does this help you? Do you still want to create your case, or are you happy with this answer? And we let them explicitly identify if we were able to solve their problems through search.
Chris, I know it's been rolled out very recently, so a few months in, and you're already seeing some amazing results. What's next for you in terms of the journey with SupportLogic for you?
We have a lot of aspirational things. We want to do a lot in AI. So we need to obviously complete our customer portal, our customer case path this month. Then I think we're going to be investing closely in the Elevate product. That's also in the implementation phases. And we're asking ourselves now, how can we use the Elevate product to evaluate how well our engineers did at documenting the case? And so we're working with your product team, saying, how can these products work more closely together if we're using the case as a knowledge source? And I'll talk about that more this afternoon. But really, when we think about the scope of cases, much like what Paul said earlier, we realize a lot of our cases are just providing information. The engineer isn't fixing anything, they're educating the customer. And so we really think the potential for deflection is high. And we think that enabling our customers and our engineers with that knowledge will help us, again, self-service more cases and dramatically reduce the handle time for those cases.
Chris, I know you're doing a deep dive session on it. I welcome everyone to attend that session later today.
Yes, after lunch.
After lunch, so please attend that session. You've been an amazing design partner with us. Chris, it's a pleasure working with you. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for helping us.
I want to cover 2 more additional use cases, and I have one more live demo for you to show before I hand over the session to Karan for a deep dive product demo. In addition to creating a customer search portal, in addition to delivering a customer portal where you can provide insights back to customers, we also have the ability to give you account summaries for anyone in the account team in your organization. This could be your customer success team, it could be your renewals team, it could be your account directors or account execs. If they want to know what's happening with the pulse of the customer, it's very easy to do today with SupportLogic. We are basically monitoring all your customer interactions, summarizing all the interactions, extracting signals from the interactions, computing an overall account health score, and we can give you insights into what's happening with an account. This has been extremely valuable, even internally within SupportLogic, for us to understand what's happening within every account. Previously, I would go to my chief customer officer and ask a question about what's happening with this account. Now it's a complete self-service for me. I can go to an account, I know what's happening with the account. So this is a product we'll be also demonstrating in the next keynote. Please check it out. This is personally one of my favorite functionality, because always I'm thinking in terms of accounts, not in terms of cases. The knowledge engine that we have, yes, you can deliver that in a portal. Yes, you can deliver that in a CRM widget to assist a support engineer, but also you can deliver that internally to anyone in your organization using Slack or MS Teams. Why this is important? I've always held the belief that support has the best knowledge about your product. Often more knowledge about your product than your product managers, more knowledge than the engineering team that built it, and more knowledge than the sales team that sold the product. They have the real knowledge. This tribal knowledge has to be liberated, should be exposed to anyone in the company so that everybody becomes product expert. When you're onboarding a new employee in the remote first world that we're living in, how did the person learn more about the product? Now there's an easy way to interact. You can ask questions about the product, and instead of asking the question to a support engineer, they can ask it to a bot in Slack that can provide answers. So you can really ramp up your team about the knowledge of the product, which is a very compelling use case, because now support is not only thinking in terms of how do I be helpful to my customers externally, but also how can I be helpful to my employees internally, which fundamentally changes the view of the world for how support organizations are perceived within a company. You can also deliver hyper-personalized mobile experience. Now, this is a mock-up. Hulu is not our customer, but I'm just showcasing what you can potentially do with an app like Hulu. Let's say you're looking at a mobile application, and you're having streaming service issues. You call center of Hulu and say, product sucks, I'm not able to watch anything. You don't have a poor support experience. But your app is not aware of it, because that data is a silo in a call center database somewhere else. What the CXPaaS solution allows you to do is take that conversational data that's happening somewhere else and deliver that as a personalized experience when the customer logs into the app and say, hey, I noticed you called the call center, you had a poor customer experience, here's a free month of service. So you can actually prevent a customer churn before it happens. This is the power of the CXPaaS platform. You can turn your outreach to customers more proactive by integrating the signals found in those customer interaction data and seamlessly integrating with all the endpoints that you are using with your customers. This is another example. You can do this with a chat system as well. When you're interacting, you can make it very hyper-personalized. So with that, I want to show an announcement on a SupportLogic MCP server. This is a technology preview that we are making it available today. Anybody wants to use SupportLogic for combining with your internal AI agents, whether it's an internal build project or you're working with another AI agent vendor and you want to fuse SupportLogic capabilities with those vendors, we are launching this MCP service. And to demonstrate that, I would like to invite Chetan, who is the founder and CTO of Quiet.ai. Chetan, welcome on board.
I'll just connect my computer and be with you in a moment. There you go.
Chetan, have a seat here. We'll talk a little bit before you go into your demo.
Okay.
So Chetan, first introduce yourself. What do you do and what is Quiet.ai?
Absolutely. Name is Chetan Konaki. I'm the CTO and founder of a cybersecurity company called Quiet.ai. And it so happened that Krishna and I are good friends from the past, and he asked me in the passing, what is this MCP? Should we do something interesting with MCP? It started as a very formal conversation that led to, okay, let's whip something out. And I whipped something out on the flight, and here we are.
Yeah. So just to give a little more context on Chetan and what he's doing, then as a startup, which is a cybersecurity startup, he's also pretty active on the MCP world. He's one of the experts in the MCP in the industry right now. He writes a lot of compelling technical blogs on MCP. If you're interested, you can check it out. So I reached out to Chetan and asked Chetan, hey, Chetan, we want to launch an MCP server. Can you build something for us very quickly? Chetan said, no problem. And he was in a flight from Berlin to San Francisco, and he picked up his laptop 20, 30 minutes later. He whipped up a demo, and that's what I want him to show. Chetan, why don't you take it away and show us what you built?
Sure. By the show of hands, how many of you are familiar with MCP? How many of you think it's a buzz and a hype and not reality? Or have you accepted the reality? So I got a few hands until I get the display set up in a moment. Let me describe what MCP is. MCP stands for Model Context Protocol. Think of this as what HTTP is behind your browser. You never speak HTTP, it's somewhat ambient. It's a protocol that connects you and your businesses through the browser. Today, MCP is that. We're talking about it today, and of course, in days to come, we will not talk about it because this protocol will be embraced and become the modus operandi behind all agents that are speaking to your businesses. Just give me 1 second. Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah,
yes,
they can see the screen.
Excellent.
Okay.
So, very quickly, we've heard from Krishna an amazing presentation where he spoke of ambient agents. But if you peel the onion and try to understand what these agents are doing, very similar to humans, which is form and imitates function, they are operating in this action perception loop. An agent is actually receiving your request, thinking, framing a response, and coming back to you. So what MCP is all about is giving those agents or endowing these agents access to your data sources so that it is not giving you answers on pre-trained data, but rather your personal data, but it's adhering to a certain protocol. So what we did with Krishna's service, Krishna and his engineers were kind enough to give me access to their APIs. I did not quite know about the domain, but the APIs were very succinct because he had spoken of the whole platform. He disaggregated it, gave me endpoints, and all I did is took all of these endpoints and hooked them up via MCP to a chat Claude bot.
So one thing I want to add, Chetan, is intentionally when we reached out to Chetan, we didn't give him any context, not much documentation. We just said, here's the API. Tell us what you can do with it. That's what we did.
Exactly.
Just to see what can be done, what's out of the possible.
And for truth, I had no idea of the domain, but merely looking at the API, the current API, and working with the steering agent, I could identify what these APIs are doing. So let's peel this onion. I have 3 MCP servers running that are proxying through Krishna's live ecosystem, which is SupportLogic. And one of the points that he touched on is signal extraction. When you look at emails, you extract signals, identify what's the veracity of a customer that is facing some issue. The other is case summarization, where you extract that signals, you look at what your prior knowledge bases contain, you aggregate that information, and you create a draft. Because you want to immediately touch the customer, reconcile at that point to tell them that you're working on it, and then work behind the scenes to solve the problem. So I hooked up Signal, I hooked up Agent, and now I'm going to steer the agent through the MCP server to read my email box, because unfortunately he just gave me his API and I had nothing to touch. I didn't have his support, Salesforce data, etc. So I just resorted to a personal email thread of mine. I had an incident with, which is a roar that I often use for my exercising. It's a long email thread, so I literally used Gmail MCP, extracted that information, and then I aggregated that information, and now I'm going to touch SupportLogic's signal information to extract the signal. And by the way, this is how you are going to interact in days to come, which means you no longer will pop the browser, you no longer will be switching context across many interfaces. You most likely will be using a chatbot to touch all your data sources, bring them to you, either continuously, on a schedule, or on demand. So what you're seeing now is me taking the signal from that email and asking SupportLogic API what is the veracity or the signal in that particular thread. And if you notice, like I mentioned, Agents are like humans because they're designed to be like humans. They have this loop of action and perception. Perception is tell me what this thread is. Now take that thread, convert it to the format that is conducive for support logic, feed it to that, come back and tell me again what's going on. So as that thinking process works, you are getting step-by-step checkpoint information of what is going on, because as we know, agents hallucinate. And you want that step point check so that you know that your information is grounded in truth. So this is what we're exactly seeing, where it touched the signal API of Krishna's SupportLogic and then came back with a progress checkpoint saying, I have understood the veracity of this customer, the customer is frustrated based on this email exchange, and now I can take that information, go to another API, which is case summarization API, draft out a response, circle back to Google again. So I put this through the whole cycle, and just to save time, here's the chatbot coming back live. Fortunately, the demo gods didn't face their wrath on me. It came back mentioning there's high frustration, negative sentiment from SupportLogic API, and I circled back with the draft, which was composed, all through chatting. I merely did not touch Gmail, I did not go to the SupportLogic dashboard, but my interaction and modus operandi was through this chatbot. So this is the art of possible, because that was our title for this presentation. But what we are unleashing is you can take these piece parts from the SupportLogic ecosystem, apply to your own, and figure out or unlock new revenue cycles or new opportunity cycles.
Thank you, Chetan. That's a very powerful demo. I know you did it with a really short 20 minutes work on the system.
Awesome.
Thanks a lot, Chetan.
Cool.
For that.
Thank you.
Just to summarize what Chetan showed, he had a support issue with his vendor, 50 email threads back and forth, used SupportLogic APIs, spun up the MCP server of SupportLogic, connected his Gmail inbox, pulled that email thread, did the sentiment analysis. It showed all the sentiments it detected with a high degree of confidence, and then we used SupportLogic APIs to create a draft response, and the draft response was automatically created in Gmail. All within 20 minutes of coding work, very little effort. This is what you can do. This is just, the MCP server potential is phenomenal. There's numerous things you can do. So you can take the value of SupportLogic signals and predictions outside of SupportLogic SaaS platform to many different places. So that was a good illustration. So I want to close this session with a few thoughts from my side. We are definitely going through an industry transformation. We used to have industrial revolution very early on in the early 1800s and 1900s, where we found out a way to produce goods at scale with automation. That's all the industrial revolution did, right? We can manufacture goods at scale, low cost, high efficiency, lots of products. It created a huge technology boom, but also created a massive economic growth. Then we entered the digital revolution. The digital revolution allowed us to create new forms of goods and services. Whatever the industrial sector was doing, now we're able to sell that in e-commerce with digital revolution, right? So this created new opportunities, new marketplaces to go after. And we started selling physical goods and digital services together now, right? Majority of stuff that we buy today is digital services, not just physical goods. Take streaming as an example, it's all digital services. So that fostered a plethora of new economic opportunities for us. Now we are on the cusp of a cognitive revolution. Just like industrial revolution, digital revolution, it's a cognitive revolution. In cognitive revolution, we are automating cognitive tasks, which is what fundamentally AI is doing. When you're summarizing a case, when you're language translating something, when you're voice transcribing something, when you're composing a response, this is cognitive automation. This is very different from industrial automation and digital automation. The biggest question for us is, and which is what the Nobel laureate in the opening video was saying, is cognitive automation, is that purely a cost play, or is it going to help you to create new goods and services? Because economy grows only when you create new goods and services. If you're only playing cost play, GDP is not going to grow. So there is a dichotomy in the industry. The VCs think it's $1 trillion opportunity, but everything that we are doing is cognitive automation, which is just going to make us more efficient. We're going to cut costs. We're going to be more efficient. It's not necessarily going to create new value. So as an industry, what we need to think about is how do we go beyond cost cutting? Cost cutting is a nice low-hanging fruit, but what can we do beyond cost cutting? Cognitive automation cannot be just cost efficiency play. It has to be a new value delivery play, new experience play, new services that we can provide. That's when support becomes a revenue center and not a cost center. And I want to tell a story about this, Roman chariots and the connection to space rockets. This is like few centuries apart, completely centuries apart. Roman chariots, when it first came out, it was designed to take 2 horses in the front. So the width of the Roman chariots was for a capacity of 2 horses. This dictated the roads that we built in the Roman era. So all the Roman roads were designed to be the size of 2 horses. Because you can run 2 horses, the roads were built. That Roman roads led to the roads in London. The London roads width were originally this. Guess what? The railway tracks that we have, same width. It's width for 2 horses. What's the connection with space rockets? Space rockets in America are built in one place and launched in a different place. We're launching it in Florida. We're building it in Texas. So which means these rockets has to be shipped and delivered. When they need to be shipped and delivered, what are the constraints we're going through? They have to be delivered through a train system. The train system's width is constrained by the railway tracks. The railway tracks was constrained by the London roads. The London roads were constrained by the Roman roads. The Roman roads were constrained by the Roman chariots. This is what in the industry we call as a lock-in problem. Constraints that was built, invisible constraint that was built centuries ago impacts your design parameters of today. Even today, the rocket's width that is being launched is constrained by this width because they need to be delivered via the trains. Only very recently, some of the rockets wanted to bypass these constraints. They didn't want the width of the rocket to be constrained, so they started producing rockets locally so they don't need to ship it and run into this shipping constraints. This is a very important message for us to understand as an industry. If you trace back the history of computing, we have done enormous things, but there are a lot of invisible constraints that we have, and it's time for us to foundationally think, how can we break those invisible constraints and have a beginner's mindset? AI is rewriting the playbook. We are rewriting this playbook in this room, and we need to think through what are the invisible constraints that we have that we need to remove so that we can start thinking fundamentally in a very different fashion. And this is why I want to show this picture. This is my 4-year-old son, and it's amazing to see him grow. His language capability is growing, and I would jokingly tell my wife that seeing him progress, his language capability is seeing like how ChatGPT has progressed from his early days. Initially, just few words here and there and putting sentences together. Now he's understanding concepts, very similar. But one remarkable difference is the ChatGPT systems and chatbots of the world are designed to answer questions. They're not designed to ask questions. We, even at the age of 3 and 4, start to ask some profound questions. He's asking me, I'm training him to ask questions to ChatGPT. He's asking questions like, what is art? It's like a profound question, and we didn't be able to give an answer for that. He was asking why there is gravity. We all know gravity exists, but scientists doesn't know why gravity exists. These are profound questions, and why this is important is when you ask profound questions, you fundamentally rethink. We are entering into an era of humanity where we're not limited by the answers. We're limited by the quality of questions we ask. And as an industry, we need to ask those questions to ourselves. What is fundamentally we can change about how we have delivered support for decades, how that we can transform it. how can we move away from a cost play, pure cost play, to a revenue play?